Latter, we have Geoff Marshall here. It's Geoff Marshall.
You have Gareth there. Hang on. Are you that side or are you that side?
You're this side, and I'm the
So
other way.
you're
There we
that
are.
side.
It's like we're ET. Marvelous. Very.
Would you like to shake hands
Oh, yeah, that's quite good.
across the? There we go.
are.
We shouldn't. We're not touching.
No, we're not touching. There's 2 meters
2 meters.
distance.
2 meters.
Yeah. Well, 1901. It's yeah, we're off to a cracking start. Oh, the one thing I didn't tell you is that you have an intro video that we're going to show off in 30 seconds, which is fun. Except that you don't get the sound, but actually the intro video, I actually spoke to a chap at Trunk Records, who owned the license for the Ivor the Engine soundtrack.
So if I just hum Ivor the Engine,
In your head, yeah. So you hum that, except that it's one of the later tracks. But yeah, so I've legally got one of the secondary themes from Ivor the Engine as the theme tune to this, because it goes out as a podcast as well. A chap from the Netherlands.
This goes out as a podcast.
Yeah. A chap from the Netherlands called Heel.
Hello, pod people.
Hello, pod people. Hello, people who can't see anything but are hearing things.
Yeah.
We're going to do our best, as ever, to try and audio describe. Oh, Geoff, I kept going underground as the title, partly because I got sidetracked and then ran out of time to change it, but also partly because it kind of, I think it broadly gets the gist. I mean, I have no idea what we're going to talk about tonight. That's kind of what's fun about Rail Natter. What sort of things have we? Without giving too much away, what have you got in store for today's Natter?
I assume that from the notes you sent me, we're going to talk about a couple of pictures I sent you and any tube-related questions.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm assuming in your format that people also throw in questions. By the way, I can only see the slide, and we're in tiny windows. Should I be able to see a bigger thing?
So at the moment, so we can go into the guest side by side for now. Actually, while people are saying, "Hello, everyone! Look, Geoff is big now."
There we see that.
There we are. So we've had our title card. Everyone knows what's going on. So now what I'm going to do is spin the chat in so I can see what's going on. There we are. It's very professional.
Do you spin in the chat as well? So you put the chat in.
So I have the chat. No. So I can't. So now I've got the chat down here on another screen. This setup is jerry-rigged to the max. Michael says he's looking forward to it. David Shepherd is talking about handshakes with Geoff. Left-handed handshake, it's his tradition. Oh, wait a minute, what's left-handed? Oh, I was actually using my left hand, weirdly. That was pure coincidence. Yeah. So, it's all happening. Yep, lovely. Right, we've got millions of people joining us in the chat, happy to say. We've got 100 people watching. Without further ado, let's kick off. Let's do this. Rail Natter. Good evening, everyone. The lovely In-City 225. This bit's always weird because poor Geoff is just sat watching a screen moving around with no sound coming out of it, but in post it looks great, don't worry. So yeah,
so it's fine.
That's it. Yeah, if you just hum it, just imagine. Okay. You can watch it later on. Yeah, Geoff, welcome to Rail Natter. This is a format that, well, there's no format. I'll be kidding myself if I suggested there was a format. It's a thing that I started informally at the start of lockdown as a form of escape.
Week 13, is that what we're on?
We're on week 13, yeah. This is week 13 of lockdown, which is...
that's crazy, right?
It is crazy. Yeah, it is absolutely crazy. I think you're going to touch on that in a minute. I've got my tea. Are you drinking anything exciting?
No, I've got like a Sainsbury's own Ribena. Maybe halfway through I'll go make a tea.
Yeah, we can. The format can sustain that level of interaction. Yeah, you could go make tea.
Like we could all go and have a comfort break together, collectively, like a half time.
People are going to. So people in the chat are going to be expecting this to last 3 hours. Geoff's a busy man. He's going to have to go. Like we have to keep this tight. We've got an hour. Geoff has to do things.
I can go over a bit. I've rejigged my evening schedule. I've got another Zoom. I just had a Microsoft Teams meeting. I've got a Zoom call coming up, and in between we're doing this via Skype.
Yeah, Skype, and then WebEx later this evening.
Well, WebEx. The other one is Google renamed Hangouts to Google Meet, didn't they?
They did, which is quite good.
Google Meet.
I've been using it with the York Cycle campaign. It's quite. I shouldn't have said that. Now everyone's going to spam Google Meet. Anyway, it's quite good. Yeah, I quite like Google Meet. And then WhatsApp with the family.
And then last week, well, yeah, it's WhatsApp, FaceTime, Zoom for like the family, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like Skype, like this for like semi-professional, and then it's Teams for like corporate stuff. And then weirdly, I did a meeting with someone, and they use Skype for business, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" It was like Skype Pro.
Yeah. We used to use that at work, but it's been gobbled up by Teams. Teams has subsumed it. So I'm surprised that it still works.
Skype Pro.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? It's a tangled, complex web.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing we're going to do, actually, because Geoff, you and I have we've never met before. Our paths have probably passed within each other, but we've never actually met. We always hope to meet at the pub and have a pint, but such is life.
Gareth, the most I know about you is when you were in Paul Whitewick's video that you did. He did a long half-an-hour video.
Yes, yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. That's been viewed by many people. It's quite good. Ben Goldacre was all over that, actually, which is quite good.
And I saw Paul last week at a 2-meter distance, obviously, and I was saying, "Hey, I'm on Gareth's thing next week." So he was dishing the dirt on you. So yeah.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, there's plenty.
That's all I know.
Maybe the next slide is a good one then, because I thought to start, I'd introduce me, which is weird on a show that I theoretically host. But given that there are 133 people watching, I'm figuring that maybe 50% of those people are.
Hang on. I'm going to go on a limb. Is that Newcastle top right?
It is, yes. That's Newcastle East Junction. Good work, Geoff.
I score points for that.
Yes, you score. Okay, so everyone's getting points. No one on the chat gets points, but you get points, which is good. So, okay, in which case, can you get extra points for for what I'm holding up in a slide? Ignore the poor quality of my cuticles. On the right, at the top, left, right, whichever one, the blue one. What's in the slide? Do you recognise where that is?
That's where on the West Coast main line there's a flat crossover, isn't there?
The east. It's the East Coast main line. But
sorry, what did I say? West?
Yes, the other side.
Is it like somewhere near Tamworth or something? No, that's on the West Coast.
That's also the West Coast. You're on the right line of latitude. It's in Newark. It's Newark flat crossing.
That's the Newark crossover. Okay.
Yeah. So that's another one. So this is the sort of junk that I get to play with. In fact, I try desperately avoiding this sort of stuff as much as I can. And then what's on the bottom is the thing that is so this is my day job, is mucking around with this stuff.
I can't actually read it. It's something Junction. What's it say?
It is. That's Colton Junction, which is...
Where's that?
So that is just south of York. It was the UK's first 125-mile-an-hour switch. It was installed at the northern end of the Selby diversion in 1982, 1983. And it was Europe's third high-speed line when it opened. We just happened to have forgotten this in the country. But never mind.
And I have no idea where picture number 4 is.
It's the same place.
Is it even in Britain?
Yeah, no, it's the same place. So the bottom two are both Colton Junction. So I used these in a presentation recently when I was talking about future-proofing. And people say, oh, you can't really design for the future because you never know what's going to happen. And indeed, Newcastle East Junction looks very different now. But Colton Junction was designed with the future in mind. And that's why it's pretty much identical now to what it was when it was built in 1982.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's me. So that's an introduction. I'm a design engineer. This is what I do. I build these things. People have just told me off that it was Europe's 4th high-speed line. Okay, what was the third then? The first was in France. It was one of the LGVs, LGV Nord. The second was in Italy. Where was the third? Because the third I thought was the Selby diversion. Anyway, we've right. Come back to that chat.
No, I love it. I love how you have an astute audience. With when you're in the railway world, people will correct you if you're wrong because people do know their stuff.
Yes, and they're good to correct. There are people who know how to correct you well, and there are some people who aren't so good at that. Anyway, we're going to move on swiftly. Right, what for next? Okay, well, the news. So normally I've started breaking in and doing a bit of the news. The news is that there are going to be yet more of these IET things around. Love them or hate them. There are going to be more of them because we're running out of tops classes because they're at what? They're like 807s now.
They're only getting about 20 or 30 units though, aren't they? How many are they getting?
Yeah, but why are they different enough? I presume it's because they're shorter carriage lengths to run around on the West Coast main line.
800 something? Are they
they're 807s, not
807.
8. Yeah, so they've come up with an additional number, and I presume it's because they are a little bit different to the other ones. But are they that different to justify a different class number anyway? Nerds answer these questions in the chat. Oh, they already are.
It looks nice. I think the Avanti livery looks better on the Hitachi train than it does on the existing units actually.
On the Pendos, yeah, I agree with that. I think it looks quite smart there. Whereas I have to say I've seen it in real life on the Pendolino and I wasn't hugely convinced.
Yeah.
The Pendolino is a bit like when people rounded off all their buttons on websites about 7 years ago, or in fact longer than that, about 12 years ago, all buttons on the internet were rounded off. The Pendolino is kind of like that. It was pretty snazzy at the time, but they look a little bit. They do look a bit dated now. Whereas I think these are a little bit sharper on the edge. Anyway, Oh goodness. What is we're 11 minutes past 7 and we're already yammering about
I know,
train aesthetics.
and I'm assuming that's an artist mock-up, or is
It is. Yeah, they don't exist yet.
At New Street.
Yeah. New. To be fair, they've got the rust and the smell right on New Street Station, despite the shiny bit on top. So yeah, it's quite a convincing mock-up. Yeah, it's good work. Anyway, right, enough of that. That was the news and a bit of an introduction to me. We're gonna
The news is like a news segment. I love it.
News, yes. Right, we're onto the content, the actual meat of it. Geoff, I've yammered on a lot, but we're gonna. I think this is a sad one, isn't it? I think it's a bit of a sad one.
Well,
melancholy.
Yeah. Would you like me to explain this picture?
Yes. Tell us about this picture.
So I counted. Well, I've got a video coming out tomorrow. Which I've been working on this week. I did a big one a couple of weeks ago with GTR and Southern about should you be travelling on a train.
That was good. I shared it. It was interesting.
Off the back of that, I mean, you have to ask TfL nicely and speak to their press office. So I've been kind of having a back and forth with them. Like, I wanted to get either the mayor, Sadiq, or the managing director. And there's a new managing director for London Underground. His name is Andy Lord. And weirdly, the Teams meeting that I referred to a moment ago was just an hour ago before I did this chat with you. I was chatting to Andy Lord for about half an hour. So that interview will appear in a video tomorrow, along with this picture and this shot, because I then, for the first time in, how many weeks are we on now? Week 13?
13,
What's 13 times 7?
I'm an engineer, not an mathematician. What's that? It's some amount.
Actually, just had to run up calc.exe and type that. So 90. I think it's been 91 days since I've been on a tube train. But that's interesting because clearly I took this picture. I've been on a tube train, but I've not had a journey on one. So I was accompanied by the press office
I see.
Yesterday morning at Brixton Station, and they were just showing like all the signage and decals and stuff that they've put up, and there's hand sanitizers in every tube station now, and we went round. And I wanted to get a picture, so we waited for one to pull in because Brixton's the terminating station. Yep. We knew we were okay because they weren't stepping back at that time, so we watched the driver walk the length of the platform. So I had like 90 seconds, and I jumped on, got some footage. So technically, I've been on a tube train, but I've not travelled on one.
You've not had the wholesome, enriching experience of feeling it rattling around under your bum.
Yeah. So I was chaperoned. Such a great word. I was chaperoned by a gentleman from the press office as I got all my shots. So that will be in a video for tomorrow. So it's weird to see a tube station with sanitizers and there's a lot of signage, which I think is funny because TfL clearly they've been bailed out by the government. I forget how much it is. I'm sure you might know because their profits have just gone straight down, and yet they've also had to spend a lot of money putting up signs everywhere and installing hand sanitizers. And we chose Brixton because they were handing out in the peak hours in the morning. They were handing out actual masks, not just face coverings, but like those
the proper
those light blue coloured medical masks.
Okay.
Which I didn't realise. Those are only one use only. If you have like a sock or a scarf, you can obviously wash and reuse that. But those medical style masks are like you shouldn't use more than once. But they're only handing those out at around 20 key tube stations, and Brixton is one of those. So you can get yourself a mask. Although I prefer the term face covering. I think mask sounds a bit, I don't know.
Face covering is that you can use a buff for a face covering, but there's no surgical. And correct me if I'm. You can cover your face, and it's more to protect other people, right? Whereas a mask is a bit more of a surgical, sealed, protected thing.
Well, I mean, at a push, you could just use a scarf, couldn't you? Or I quite go running, and there's this strange thing called a snood. I think that's the right word, SNOOD, which is you sort of put around your neck like a running scarf, and you can just raise that up. But I don't know. Do you know what? If I knew where my snood was, I'd get it out and show you, but I can't. I don't know where it is at the moment.
Geoff, crikey.
But they want something to cover your face. It doesn't have to be a mask, but just a face covering. So, but we chat about all this in the video, and it was weird to see Brixton very quiet. It was also interesting to see how many people were already wearing face coverings, because this is picked up again in the video, because it's not law, it's not a bylaw, but it's actually, I thought this was very interesting. I checked, it's now been written into the conditions of carriage. So it's not a bylaw; it's a condition of carriage that you should wear a face covering. But I believe I'm right in saying, and this is the big thing, is there's still some ambiguity as to who's going to enforce it, because I know, speaking to members of staff, that there are certain members of staff who don't want to say to a member of public, excuse me, you're not wearing a face covering, because that member of public might just, turn around and, shout back at them. Because I'm sure there are some people who are going to say, I'm not going to wear one, and it's going to be a bone of contention.
Particularly given that a staff member was died of COVID, having been spat at. I think that's probably fresh in a lot of people's mind. The lady from Victoria Station. Yeah,
just so tragic. Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough, and there's going to be people, maybe other commuters will call out other commuters. There'll probably be news items, to where, arguments broke out because somebody wasn't wearing a face covering, and, somebody that was said that you would and stuff. Maybe that's going to happen in the news over the next few weeks. I don't know. It's going to be another unknown period that will become a testing time. Who knows?
And I suppose, two things on this is, one is that I'm always impressed at the speed at which TfL can mobilise this sort of change, particularly signage. They're so quick on certain things. I'm sure you can say, good grief, they're so slow on it. Like, I don't know, the Battersea extension, or Crossrail. But the actual, in terms of signage, in terms of these sort of quick systematic changes, I'm always impressed by it. At Network Rail, similarly, actually, it's impressive how quickly the changes happen on.
And I don't know where it is. I should ask them. Presumably, they've just got a design team somewhere at Palestra at Blackfriars, and somebody just goes Illustrator the sign and send it to a printer somewhere, and overnight they churn it out, and then there's a whole distribution process to get it to all the stations. So I should make a video about that.
But I presume there's a little ticky code on the corner saying so that it'll have fitted into their sign categorization system. I'm always curious when I look at their stickers and things they stick onto the signs or the line designators within the trains. They've always got the little code in there. You might well have done a video on this. I'm always curious what that must be the most complex database of signs, and good grief.
It must surely pertain to their style guide. Maybe it's like an approval code that says, yes, this meets style guide number so and so. Because even a simple keep your distance sign must adhere to their TfL's rigorous.
Yeah. Well, it's for clarity. The whole point of those standards is for clarity, and obviously no sign could be more important to be clear and obvious than one like this, other than perhaps the mind the gap signs. The other thing is, sorry, go on.
No, I just think another fascinating thing about this, and let me stress, that this is obviously an extremely testing time, especially if you've had it or people that have had from it, but also. Like all historic moments in time, what I find is fascinating that all this new signage has now been produced, but that in a year, 5 years, 10 years time, this will now pop up in TfL's own archives or the Transport Museum, I can imagine in like 20 years time, the Transport Museum will have like an exhibition on, hey, do you remember 2020 when there was, when Corona happened and we had all this signage, and people will collect some of these signs, just in the same way that we have stuff now from the Second World War and stuff, saying shelter down below. This will become a thing, and once in 100 years' time, people will look back and go, this is what all the signs they had back in 2020, and you have to sort of remember that we're living through that now, and that's really fascinating.
It's so Lee Render, hi Lee, has pointed out that TfL do have a dedicated design team, and the numbering refers to the job and stock number. Oh, there we go.
I love that. Lee, I love that you know that. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. That's tremendous. Don't forget to add my name into the chat if you want me to spot a question, because it just pings up a bit more brightly. Thanks,
everyone. Is that what you do when you? I didn't know that. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So if someone if they add me into it, then it comes up in red. and I can, and it's easy. It means I can spot questions. So that's always. And to be fair, the questions are coming.
Something. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry, that's a very good point. Actually, her name was Bailey Mujinga, I think, the lady who died as a result of died from COVID working at Victoria, having just been spat on.
And that day that I made that video, obviously I was behind the scenes and I spoke to people, and I don't want to say where are the names, but there are other people as well, and a conversation occurred where we spoke of other people that had been affected. So yeah, there's a lot of transport workers out there that have been affected, and we absolutely acknowledge that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's just I mean, for me, I'm conscious that I'm on the edge of York. We were really lucky. We moved house. Like Dean and I just moved house just before lockdown, essentially, or kind of only a month or so before lockdown. And we have a small garden. And I'm conscious that we're hugely lucky, and that there are so many people, in London particularly, people living in a small flat with no access to any space whatsoever.
I don't have a garden. I live in London, Gareth. I don't have a garden.
Yeah, and it's just so lockdown is and when you've got a whole family in a tiny little room. Anyway, it's hard. But okay, the other thing I was going to say is a lot of people are really doom and glooming this and saying it's going to be like this for years and years and years. That's just not realistic. It's not going to be years and years and years. We're going to see change. This year is going to be a write-off. 2020 has somewhat descended, and it's going to be Christmas before there's or beyond Christmas before we start seeing any form of normality reign. But it's not going to be. We're not going to see years and years of this. It is going to be a short blip. And people talk about it in terms of ridership as well, and ridership we've recovered from deeper ruts in terms of transport ridership.
I mean, the way I see it, to be utterly fair, and I think it's a reasonable point of view, is, to be honest, many people have varying strong opinions, but in reality, because this is the first time something has happened like this in a lifetime, no one really knows. So the only thing you can say for sure is that we don't know. Wasn't it Socrates that's famous for saying, the only thing I know is that I know nothing? Is that this might go on for another 6 months. It might go down. It might flare up again. There might be a second wave. There might not. Nobody knows. Even some of the scientists behind don't know. And so in terms of travel, nobody knows. Are we going to have to wear face coverings for just a week, for a month, for the next year? I don't know. And I generally tend to be an optimist rather than a pessimist. So, I mean, if you're talking about in terms of the virus, you could argue that it's going to be here forever, just in the same way that other things like mumps and chickenpox, SARS are here. But will we be under these restrictions forever, and travel restrictions for a long time? I would on the side of positivity and say I would assume / hope not. But we don't know.
We don't. It's true. It's true.
Nobody knows. But that's the crazy thing.
Anyway, right. So that's So the picture, just in case we hadn't, I don't know how adequately we describe what's on screen. We've got a nice blue sticker applied to the window of a. If anyone can identify the tube stock from this picture, then you win triple points. Well, I certainly can.
It's at Brixton Station. Come on, it's pretty obvious.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. There we are. See, we've got. Oh crikey, the chat just exploded with all sorts of people adding my name to just sort of show me that it's working. Thanks everyone, that's really helpful. Right.
You typed Gareth's name with an @ now. Do it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh golly, right. Like the sticker saying, we've moved on from the sticker saying, please keep 2 meters apart, and we're down inside. There's a really nice enamel sign there that's not of the new style, so that's quite nice. I like that.
Yeah. Now, I do need to give a shout out here to my friend Luke, who you may know, Luke Agbaimani, aka Tube Mapper.
Yes, Tube Mapper.
This is his photo. Okay.
Yeah, he did. There's a watermark in the bottom of it, but it cropped out to fit my screen, so we've cropped out the watermark. Sorry, okay. Tube Mapper.
So you should all follow Luke on Twitter or Instagram. He posts a lot to Instagram, actually. But this was, I just, because you told me to send through some pictures, and straight away I gave you that picture of Brixton yesterday, because I was like, that's the last time I was on the tube. And then that sort of took me back to when was the last time I just spent like a leisurely evening just riding the tube just for the heck of it. And it was a pleasant evening I spent with Luke about March, April of last year, and we just met up, had a drink, and then I was like, let me take you around some places, and he took photos. And weirdly, he wasn't really. I call this, this is my favourite corridor on the whole of the tube, the green tiled corridor at Embankment, and he hadn't been there. And it was a beautiful moment in the video that I made where he was like, "Oh wow!" And he, because it's unless you know it's there, you don't know it's there. And I was thinking, how can you have never been to this corridor before? But I caught the moment that he got excited about taking this picture, and it's a great picture.
I've never noticed this corridor. So this now goes on to my list of places to go and snap and enjoy and soak in. I'm in London a fair amount. Well, was in London a fair amount for work, I enjoy traveling. I enjoyed picking off little weird corners and things, and pointing out the bit where you go from old to new on the Jubilee line, just where the branch disappears off towards Charing Cross. That's my main nerd thing, in fact, because I'm on the Jubilee line a fair amount. It's like, ooh, now we're in the new bit.
You can even hear it. You can hear the change, which is the great as you go through. Yeah.
So that's always good fun. But I love these little tidbits. They're great. And in fact, those, what are they called? They're not isometric views. They've got a funnier name. They're on Ian Visits has put a load on his website of the sort of 3D. They're line drawings, but they're like 3D of the tube stations.
Yeah, the black and white isometric maps. Yeah, sure.
They're brilliant. Yeah. They're good fun. So they're quite good for spotting good stuff. Anyway, so Embankment Station. What does this connect up then? Well, the Bakerloo line from somewhere.
I mean, it's like the Bakerloo line is on one side and the Northern line is at the other, and it's the long corridor that just connects the two. But what's amazing about it is that halfway along, there's a spiral staircase, which is the next picture, which almost nobody ever goes up there, either walks up or walks down. And I genuinely, like, if I have friends come and visit London, they go, "Oh, Geoff, you're Mr. Tube, take us on the tube." And I always take them to the Embankment corridor, and we always walk up the secret spiral staircase. And people are like, "This is amazing." A friend of mine, a woman, got really excited just when we walked up a staircase one day, because she was like, "I would have never have known that this was here had you not shown me." And in fact, I feel like we should jump to that picture.
Let's do it. Let's hop over.
I was with a
here he is.
That's the spiral staircase. I was with a group of friends one day. There's about 3 or 4 of us, and amusingly, the staff, in the ticket hall area in the control room, spotted about 4 of us just like hanging out in this spiral stairwell, taking photos, and they dispatched a member of staff down to be like, "Are you okay?" And we were like, "We're just hanging out." I was like, "I'm just showing them this staircase," and even they were like, "But nobody ever comes down here." And I'm like, I know, that's why we came here.
So does it link up to like a halfway concourse or something? Like what's
yeah, oh man, Embankment is so confusing. There's like a mezzanine level again, so that sort of just under the surface. That if you change between the Northern line and the Bakerloo line, it takes you up sort of in this area where there's staircases coming off in all directions, and there's a little side passage that leads down to this staircase that takes you down to that green corridor. But at the top, when you're at the top end, there's actually a sign that says "No entry," like "Do not come this way." But you can. It's fine.
It's fine. No one's going to shout at you.
Yeah.
Or they might come and check if you're all right.
Yeah, they might just spot you on CCTV. Do you know that that's happened to me twice, actually. That happened to me once at Moorgate. If ever you're on the spiral staircase at Moorgate, which halfway down leads to the Great Northern and then at the bottom takes you to the Tube, I was sort of just taking some people around on a kind of a fun things to see on the Tube. And again, at Moorgate, they spotted us. And then they dispatched a member of staff with their radio to be like, "Yeah, they're on the stairwell at Moorgate. Go see what they're doing."
You need a special coloured Geoff hat that you and Vicky can wear when you're doing tours around the Underground, so people just know, "Oh, it's bloody Geoff again, isn't it? Yeah, all right, it's fine, leave him."
Did you know? I didn't know this, right? One of the last videos I made back in March, before we all couldn't go out on trains, I was making. I was with Network Rail making a video about the landslide down at Edenbridge and Lingfield, and we all had to wear PPE and stuff. And I didn't realise this. It was only when I played back the video and somebody went, "Ha, they made you wear a blue hat." I didn't realise there's a colour code. If you wear a white hard hat, then you're like, you've had all the proper PPE training, and it means that you know what you're doing. If you wear a blue hat, it means supervise this dummy. He doesn't know what he's doing.
If I could, I would go and grab my white helmet from the corner. But
maybe wear a blue hat.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the standard thing. Yeah. So, but interestingly enough, my PTS has expired because I'm getting old and crusty behind the ears, which means that my company can't be bothered to pay for me to have PTS anymore. Which means I'm on a blue hat again now.
You're back on the
blue hat.
Do you want a blue hat as well as a white hat, or do you just have the white?
Well, they'll probably ask me to hand my white helmet back in. And theoretically, helmets expire after a while anyway. You're supposed to chuck them in the bin after like 2 years or something. Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
They're not forever?
Yeah, they're not forever, although they totally are. I mean, it's fine, right? Yeah.
But
my oranges are sat in the corner collecting dust. I haven't been out for ages.
I didn't realise that a blue hat was a thing. And now it makes me think back to all the other times I've worn hats and what colour they were.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what classification did you fall under? Yeah, basically, it's like the height of your hat in the olden days. In that picture I've got of Newcastle East Junction, there are 2 of them. There's one where they're actually building the thing, and you can see the foreman who's got kind of he's got like a bowler hat. You can see the engineer who's got like a top hat, and then all the flat cap folk are the plate layers, just kind of kicking metal around. People are shouting at me for PTS. Personal track safety. It's a network rail thing. Where is? Oh,
have you got the manual? Have you got the book?
Yeah, it's here. It's here.
The manual.
I can even do this. There. A guide to personal track safety, and he's
helmet. Got not a blue helmet.
White helmet. That's because this guy is a pro. This person is a pro. Anyway, there. So don't worry too much about that. Yeah. Anyway, helmets. This is what RailNet's about. We go off in funny little sort of just.
I love it. No, I love it. It's great.
I'm gonna while we've got your big face up and we've got plenty of time in hand. Nice collection of OS maps there. Loving that.
Oh yeah.
Good work.
I know.
I'm pleased at the number with the cover falling off as well. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, but recently when I bought a couple, you now get a download. So I was out, several months ago, last summer, with my iPad in the field, scrolling around the OS map.
Is it any good? Is it good? Is the app good? Like, is it all right?
There's like a free version, and then there's like a premium version. They want you to like pay an annual fee for. There's like two levels. So I was just using the free version. Maybe the paid version is better. I don't know. It was fine.
It was okay. Yeah, I bought a few new ones recently for having like on the hope of exploring. Bought a few new ones actually, kind of a few months ago, and then that went well, didn't it? But yeah, they've changed slightly. And what I realised is that some strung off part of my family are now the printers of OS maps. I didn't realise they were printed by Dennis of Frome in Somerset. So the Dennis side of the family, they're all from the West Country, and proper West Country, not Somerset, not Cornwall, but Devon, the proper part of the West Country. Are you doing the
West Country accent right now? Or have you slipped from Yorkshire to West?
I might have slipped a little bit. Well, I'm Scottish, so I have a weird hybrid accent. But so the thing is, the thing with the Devon accent is that it's totally upside down from a Somerset accent. Somerset's easy, right? It's quite easy.
When
to
you
drop
say
into
Somerset, your voice changes.
Yeah, it changes. But Devon is totally different to that. It's upside down. Vowels just flip upside down. Everything's different. Like, people try and do a Devon accent, they sound like they're from Somerset. They try and do Bristol accents. Well done, Bristol, for pulling that statue down, by the way. Anyway, yeah. So my accent is.
Sorry, did you see? Sorry, because we're talking about maps. Did you see what happened within about half an hour on OpenStreetMap?
It was even Google Maps. It wasn't even OpenStreetMap. It was on like Google Maps, and the statue just shifted into the dock. That was perfection. I loved that moment. That was really good.
I love it. Wherever it is, I love it when like the OSM nerds. I love them because they're like, we can edit this. They're on it.
They're on it.
They're just on it. Good. Straight away. I love it.
Oh man, there's Toby. Stop spamming my @name. We will ask questions shortly, but.
Gareth, put it on slow mode, man. I told you.
I already have.
Okay.
Why don't they convert these circular staircases into lifts? Well, my answer is they're probably too small, and lifts shafts are square. So those are my two answers. What are yours, Geoff?
Why do I feel like is it Tom Scott, big YouTuber, has made a video about the fact that somewhere there's a building with a circular lift, and a circular lift shaft was a thing. You should all go on YouTube afterwards and look that up. Yeah. But it's just money. It's just money, isn't it? I mean, haven't they just recently? Like, I haven't been able to get out there on the Northern Line, but Mill Hill East became a step-free tube station because the mayor made this pledge to have like a certain percentage of tube stations step-free by a certain date, and they did what anybody would do. They thought, well, where's the quick wins? Where can we put a lift in cheaply? Just to get our figures up, and Mill Hill East was on that list, even though it's the least used Northern Line station. Whereas putting it in an embankment, which would be much more useful, is also much more complicated and much more expensive.
Yeah,
so
which why
just comes down to money.
Yeah, absolutely, and it ought not to, because this stuff, money is literally free at the moment. Like, there is no reason not to be investing in our railway infrastructure. Money, like.
Dude, you could do a whole 2 hours just on TfL's finances right now.
Yeah, golly, I know, right? Anyway, yeah. But Boris and George, you're thick as thieves. Right, so where are we? Let's see. Oh, so many questions. People are wondering where Vicky is. Well, probably busy doing. She's having a dinner.
She has. She's doing a Zoom meeting in the other room with some other people. No, genuinely, she is. Otherwise, I'd get her in. It's interesting to see if our internet connection can hold up with me on Skype with you and Vicky on Zoom with whoever she's talking to.
See, weirdly, I'm not using any. I don't need a high demand internet connection, but we have a gigabyte connection here because I'm in a new build with a proper fibre right into the 3 feet below my toes situation.
What you got? You got the fibre straight into your house?
Yeah, yeah, it's quite good. A gigabyte a second. It's not useful. That's not a useful quantity of it's not possible for me to.
Are you with BT or Virgin?
No, like some shifty wholesaler. It's probably fine. They're quite cheap actually.
Oh, good. I'll just Google that. Some shifty wholesaler.
Pure Fibre, I think they're called. Anyway, there you are. Thanks, Pure Fibre. I expect it free next month. Right, let's should we skip on to the next image?
Yes.
This is good. This is. I mean, these things. It's so easy.
Is this okay? Is this how you imagine this?
This is a rail natter. This is perfection. Okay. This is exactly what they're like. Just utter chaos. Everyone's going gigabit. No, for the people who just corrected me on gigabit. No, come on, do better than that. Right, let's go back to this. Okay, it's a picture. So this is a cheeky picture that you've taken through something, right? Of above a platform. What platform is this? I can't tell. I'm not good enough at tube stations.
Dude, there's a roundel right. You're being silly. There's a roundel right there.
Oh, I meant the. Oh wait, it's Kennington. Is this the northern? No.
What's it's Hampstead. It's Hampstead because there's a sign there saying.
No, I know it's Hampstead. I meant the line, not the station.
Oh, it's the Northern Line. It's the Northern Line. Right. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were like, I'm not sure what station is that.
No. I was trying to work out the line from the tile patterns. I was getting too clever for my own good.
I threw it in because it's one of my all-time favourite photos. This used to be my Windows desktop wallpaper. Nice. If anybody wants to know, it's now changed to a picture of Corral. For a while, I had this on my iPad as well. I entered this picture into a photo competition, that Londonist ran back before I used to do stuff for Londonist about 8 years ago, and I was like in the top 3. I was like a finalist, but it didn't quite win. But it stood out today because the word Kennington is obviously glowing there, and I found out a wee bit of information today is that Northern Line extension they've started up amongst with all necessary protections in place, but the bank upgrade they've restarted work at the 4LM, which is to upgrade all the signalling on the subsurface railway is happening, but the extension from Kennington through Nine Elms to Battersea is now ticking along, and I couldn't get a date out of them, but sort of reading between the lines, I'm thinking, that this will be the next major bit of infrastructure definitely happening quite soon on the tube, is the extension down to Battersea. And I'm just excited for two new tube stations because it's very...
So that bit, I'm always interested by that because the Northern Line is a bit weird in that it's two lines. So, but it can't be split properly into 2 lines until they do the work at Camden High Street. Is that right? Like there's still a right old mess at Camden that they have to unpick.
Camden Town is a right
Camden
old
Town, sorry,
spaghetti. The other thing that's always mentioned is that they is to build a second entrance on the street for Camden, sort of to the north of the station, and sort of have like a one way in and one way out kind of situation. But again, that's loads of money, and if there's one thing that TfL don't have right now, it's loads of money. But if they were to untangle Camden, you could probably just run it as 2 complete separate lines. And it's always one of those things that's discussed and touted about, and people have produced tube maps to show what it might look with kind of like a dark mustard yellow as opposed to like the Circle Line bright yellow, to have like a second Northern Line, and would you call it the Southern Line? And when Nine Elms and Battersea came up, obviously it reignited that conversation, but it's, as far as I'm aware, it's not being split, and it will just stay as one Northern Line. But I believe, and again, it's one of those things like talking about Purple Line, Elizabeth Crossrail frequencies. Nobody has set this in stone, but if the Northern Line is running 24 trains an hour through, down the Charing Cross branch, the latest that I heard is that only 18 would go through to terminate at Battersea, because it's just 2 platforms, and inexplicably the crossover points are like Brixton, they're in front and rather than behind in the runover tunnels, which I think is a weird design decision. And then 6 out of those 24 will still go around the Kennington loop, so Battersea won't get the full 24 trains an hour service. Only 18.
Yeah, only 18. I mean, it's a decent amount. when Malton gets a train an hour, or a train every half hour. Anyway,
I'm right into Gareth. Like, back me up here because you've got that amazing picture of the crossovers and the points at Newcastle. If you've got at the moment, I'll use my hand to demonstrate.
Let's get you up in big.
If this is Brixton, hang on a sec. I'll actually get an actual train.
Oh yes, please.
There we go. I got my train. So if your platforms are here and the end of the tunnel is here, and the train is coming in, right? The crossover points at Brixton are outside the station. So which means if one's coming in, crossing over, the train in the other platform can't leave until it's crossed over. So it makes more sense, surely, from a design point of view, to have the crossover points beyond the terminating platform. So a train can come in, it doesn't block the one going out on the platform, and it can then reverse beyond the platforms and then come back in. It
just means extra tunnelling. I think probably the reason is the extra tunnelling. So from a cost perspective, the offset in operational hit. If you've got a good, is it just a set of scissors? Do you know what it looks like? Have you had a look? Have they given you top secret access yet?
Sadly not. No, I've spoken to people, but it's just a standard crossover.
Is it scissors? If it's a standard scissors, so that's where you've got two crossovers sat on top of each other, perfect mirror image. They always look nice in pictures. Then the speeds to get through there are probably not too bad. So from an operational perspective, it might not be too much of a problem. Right. But yeah, it'll be tunneling cost because you have to bore more tunnel at the other side of the platforms if you did it the other side.
So you say that, but then there's always the will they extend it to Clapham question
which is a no-brainer. Come on, TfL, that's obviously where it has to go.
So why not future-proof the extending it to Clapham and build the extra train length beyond Battersea, imagining at some point in the future you're going to run it to Clapham?
Because George Osborne took TfL's money away. That's why.
I don't think. Do you know why I think they'll never extend it to Clapham? It's obvious, really, because imagine what will happen is that it will just get overloaded because people will come off, from the trains, from the south coast, from Kent, whatever, coming into London. Why would you go through to Waterloo or Victoria? You can hop off at Clapham and onto the tube, and so you'll just get thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and it will just become so congested. And in the evening, you'll just have thousands of people getting on at Clapham rather than getting on at Waterloo.
Well, that's why you need Crossrail too. That's why the one line that had the best business case of the three bits of new railway that have been built, i.e. the Chelsea Hackney line, should have been built first, not the one that had the worst business case, which is the Jubilee line extension. I mean, I'm glad that they built it because it's stunning and it's brilliant, and Crossrail obviously is nice and everything, but they were built backwards. Which just shows that business cases are a load of nonsense, and actually it's all about politics, which line gets built first.
Yeah. Why do you think the Jubilee line runs through Westminster? Hey, because Parliament's there. Yeah.
Although it
is tricky to curve the tracks. So you think if Crossrail 2 gets built north-south, it will go through Clapham, and maybe then they'll extend the northern line down.
Because Waterloo's crammed, Victoria's an absolute shambles of a station, so they both need relieving desperately.
Dude, you realise that's like 30, 40, 50 years away, and we'll probably be dead when the other time that happens.
Well, I don't know. Hopefully, I'll be, maybe I'll be engineering manager on some of that work. But come what may.
I fear it's many years away. Anyway.
I hope not. We've got a collapsing climate around us that everyone seems to have forgotten about. So we need to do some of that stuff quicker rather than slower. We'll see. It'd be nice if it is, because then you can do videos about it and tell us about it. That'd be nice.
I'll be too old. I'll be too old to be on YouTube. Really?
There's not an upper age limit, Why, are you in your mid 20s, Geoff,
Yeah, I'm in my 20s. Yeah, but I can't be 60 or 70 running around holding a camera going, hey everyone, I'm here at so-and-so station.
Why not?
Weird.
That's exactly it. You need to go out that way. You need to go out that way with get a heart attack running up those spiral staircase that we were showing.
If Michael Portillo was on YouTube doing vlogs, that would look bonkers, right?
No.
Would it?
No,
okay.
He's going to be doing that in 5 years. I mean, Great British Railway Journeys is going to be when he starts doing the sort of guerrilla episodes where he's there with his mask on and he's sort of he'll be on YouTube.
Yeah. Great British Railway vlogging.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Michael Portillo in his 80s.
I don't know why I got my stress Eurostar out. I thought it might have been useful to make a point, but it wasn't anyway. Forget about that. So. Yeah, let's get that picture back. It is a terrific picture.
Often. Let's just do this every Wednesday.
Yeah, well, I do do it every Wednesday. It's good fun. I love it, particularly with guests. Here we are. You're still here. I just thought I'd put this picture up because it's
Oh,
brilliant.
okay. Yeah, I was just there, just as a lead-in to talk about the Northern Line extension. It's the only thing I could think of that said Kennington that I had a decent photo of, and that's why.
Trek
That's why.
001
Excited.
is
I'm
Trek
excited.
001 makes an excellent suggestion, which is a new idea for Geoff in his 70s, 80s, 90s. All the railway station ramps. Which I think is quite good. I like that.
Can you imagine if I'm like arthritic and doubled up in like a wheelchair, I could then do a YouTube series about how accessible.
I mean, it's a good point because you raised the fact that that Mill Hill got it's not step free. It's step free access to the platform. Mill Hill. I don't know about.
I'd assume they put in a platform hump as well on the
hope,
Northern
yeah.
Line, isn't it? The fifth carriage from.
Is that where
back being south,
Yeah.
one being north, six being south.
But it's a good point and it's worth raising actually. And we're gonna have Katie Pennick on hopefully to talk about level boarding. I'm involved in the campaign for level boarding, which is looking at the tube, but actually more broadly, it's looking at the whole railway network because that's a bigger fish to tackle. And actually, TfL are much further ahead on that, I think. But it just shows that a lot of the stuff about step-free access is a lot of lip service to it, isn't there? It's, as you say, Mill Hill was it's an easy win when actually it really would benefit people if they spent the big money and fixed the problems at some of these. Because even now when there are so many more accessible stations on the tube map, it's still a case of you do have to do a lot of snakes and ladders to get where you're going if you can't actually get on if you can't get on a tube train unassisted.
And then weirdly, I feel like that information isn't always readily available. I can't remember where it was. Somebody on Twitter the other day put out an accessible tube map which I'd never seen before, and the person tweeting was like, "Hey, here's an accessible tube map which I'd never seen before." I remember thinking, "This is really useful and a nice design." It made me think, why isn't that more readily available?
The Step Free London blog, Thomas. I got him to write for me in Rail Magazine once to do a bit on level boarding. He's got a really good map, I think. So that might be the same one, Step Free London blog that has a map.
It might have been that map. Yeah. Well, it's weird that you say that, but I can exclusively reveal on Railnatter that I made a big thing about that I'd not been on a train for 70 days. Is today Wednesday? Yeah. It's looking very likely that I'm going to go on a train this Friday for purposely to do a video job to do with accessibility, and I'm meeting up with some people, the accessible representative from the Rail Delivery Group. In conjunction with Greater Anglia, and we're going to go on. But we're talking about accessibility in this world where now you have to keep 2 meters away from someone. So I will be on a Greater Anglia train on Friday, but again doing some work for accessibility.
Yeah, Dominic. I met Dominic's lovely. Do say hello.
That's
to
him.
him. Yeah.
I didn't say his name, but you knew who I meant.
I knew exactly who you meant. Yeah, no, he and I we met in York once and. We chatted about precisely this thing because it's something we're both. Well, he's in charge. He's responsible for it, and I'm passionate about it. So, So that was. It was good. I'm glad that. Well, that's a Railnatter exclusive. They don't happen very often.
I'm excited because A, I get to do a good thing, and B, I get to go on a train. So yeah. This
is it. Yeah. So right. So what I'm going to do is go back through and have a look at some of these questions. So we've got. David Shepherd is asking if I can get the guy managing the Merseyrail upgrade. That guy is also called David Shepherd. No, he's called Dave. Anyway.
Well, I don't want to say his name occasionally, but I'm definitely doing a thing with the 777s. But I don't at the moment. I don't want to get a train all the way up to Liverpool, so I might drive. It always freaks people out when people go, "You drive, Geoff." So can I just say, around that exclusive, I don't own a car, but I hire quite a few cars, and at the moment, it is the best way to get around.
People have gone like, I mentioned that I drove somewhere recently. It was like, "You drive? Oh, you're awful." Like,
oh my God,
it's fine. Dean and I, Dean has a smart car which I drive, which for starters is so much fun. I was a hater to start with, but then I got in it and I'd burst out laughing because they're so much bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. They are the car TARDIS. I'm not going to try and contract that because it'll go horribly wrong. But they're brilliant, and they're also like a go-kart. They just have an on and an off button under each foot. They're great fun.
Well, in London we have this car sharing scheme called Zipcar, and there's a thing called Zip Flex where you can just pick up a car almost like a taxi on the street, and they have a couple of electric cars. And like the torque ratio on it is just crazy. You put your foot on the gas and it just boom and it goes. But I tell you, rail people, I mean, I'm never going to be able to afford one. But if I ever got my hands on an electric Tesla, I might not ride on a train again because that would just be too much fun to drive everywhere. That would be so much fun.
No one heard that. It's fine. So Dave Shepherd, your namesake is David Powell, who I know, who's the guy at Merseyrail. He's lovely. Right. You wouldn't mind being named. He's on Twitter. You can go and find him. He's very good. And Merseyrail's level boarding. What other questions have we got? Least used emergency toilet use from... Oh, I don't even want to... I'm not even going to read that out. People are asking if you've got a favourite... People would watch you at 60, Geoff. There's, in fact, quite a lot of people interested in watching you at 60.
Surely some young and up-and-coming kid in his teens or 20s you'd want to watch a younger person, not an older person, right? No,
no, because all your watchers are going to be old with you, right?
Society. I mean, that's encouraging. I don't know.
Everyone's going to get old. All the people who watch this are going to get old with us. That's sort
you sort of grow with.
Yeah. The new audience can watch the new people, and we can get angry about the new whippersnappers on the block.
Be like those kids.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, people have asked. It's an inane question to ask what one's favourite station is. I don't think I have an answer to what my favourite station is.
Tube station or National Rail Station?
Let's go with Tube Station because you might have an answer.
Yeah, it's Sudbury Town. I made a whole video about it. So
go and find Jen's video.
I was there with Luke, that I mentioned earlier, Mr. Tube Man, where in August, September of last year. So just go onto YouTube, type Geoff Sudbury Town, just watch that video. It talks about everything about why it's such a design classic. But I've got a really good answer to what's your favourite national rail station.
Oh yeah, go on.
You'll like this. It's taken me 3 years to come up with a decent answer since we did all the stations. When people say, "Do you have a least favourite station?" I mean, and it's how you define it in terms of is it architecture or the service pattern or whatever. But I mentioned this on a podcast the other day. I feel like I'm repeating myself. There's a station in Wales. Is it Pontypool and Newin?
Okay, yeah.
No, Pontypridd. Was it Pontypridd or Pontypool? I think it's Pontypool and Newin. But the thing about it is that because it's where Gareth's going to look it up. It's the railway line obviously has to follow through the valleys. You don't want to be taking a railway line up and over a big hill or mountain. But the railway station neither properly serves Pontypool or Newin because it's like a 15-minute walk either side to both, right? And I realised that when people say what's a not good train station, the answer is one that doesn't serve
anyone,
which it is named after. So I took the inverse of that, and I thought, well, surely that makes a really good railway station, one that's right in the heart of where it's meant to serve. So, for example, Birmingham New Street. Boom! It's right there.
Yeah, that is definitely true, unavoidably true.
Think it's not a design classic, or it's a bit, but you can't get more that drops you right in the heart of where you want to go. Unlike London termini stations, where you then have to walk or get the tube or a bus, which which is what's going to be so brilliant about Crossrail. You can get a train from the outside, boom, Tottenham Court Road, right there. Amazing, amazing.
So I had the privilege of going down inside Crossrail when it's been built because we worked on some of the design. So one of our design colleagues, we went down when I worked for Atkins. That was, and so I went into the is it Stepney Green? One of the shafts, is that right? So we went down this quite narrow. I mean, the staircase was like this narrow. You might have done this, so I might be. But anyway, for all the benefit of the viewers, is like this rickety scaffold staircase that appears to just be floating hanging in midair, except that it's tied off on one side, and you kind of walk it and you feel the thing swaying as you're going down it. And it's deep. It's a very deep railway line because it's got to dodge everything. Particularly at that point, it's really deep because it has to go under silver. It disappears off under some docks pretty rapidly at that point.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I went down into that and then walked towards Canary Wharf Station, which was really cool because it weaves. It's a point where it's weaving around the docks, so through the geology, and so it's got these reversing curves. And then, of course, so I went in just before they'd only just laid the bottom slab. So obviously the tunnel had been driven, and they'd laid the kind of the mass concrete, so that the curbing, so it looked a bit like a Boring Company tunnel, as in a bit kind of empty and sparse. And it's before they then brought in the railway system stuff. And And so so that curves with the cant. So with the cant alignment of the track, that concrete rotates. So you're walking along and you're kind of following the cant of the train in the future. It's really cool. And then you get to the station, and just as with all modern metro systems, it climbs to the platforms to save energy, right? So saves your braking as you come up, and then you accelerate quickly as you go down. Lovely stuff.
Hang on. I'll get my train coming along, so it's going to go whee, and then down again.
And then down again. Thanks, Geoff.
Thanks very much.
Lovely system. And then, but it's really nice because you stand in the platform and you look down and you can just see the vertical, the permanent way alignment engineer in me was going, oh, I can see the vertical alignment, and you could just see it disappearing off with a really nice vertical curve at the platform edge. And the scale is just off the chart. It's just on another planet. It's awesome. I can't wait for Crossroads to open.
That's the one thing that people, could you just think underground railway, you just think tube, exactly. And you have to think, no, it's double the size of the tube. Everything's just big. It's twice as big, and it's bonkers. Yeah,
it's bonkers, and to the point where they have to think. TfL had to think of lots of new ways of doing wayfinding and things because these stations are so huge that it's really important that people end up at the right place in them.
From what I've seen, I've been inside 3 or 4 of the new builds. I think they'll end up adding in more signage at a later date when they realise that it needs it.
Really interesting. I can believe it. It's just the scale is just off the chart, and it's the same with High Speed 2. People think of, people say, oh, why can't you put that station there? Particularly when it comes to the East Midlands hub, they say, why is it not in Nottingham? Nowhere in Nottingham is big enough to have 7 platforms, of which 4 of them are 400 metres long. It's huge. It's just imperceptibly massive as a station, which is also cool because the scale of that's going to be brilliant. It's good. We're moving more people with sustainable transport and also letting more trains run everywhere else at the same time. Happy days. Right. Okay.
Any more questions?
Yeah. Let's go back to the questions.
I can stay to about 8:15, by the way. So we've got like 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can tie off a few questions. This is quite neatly. You've timed it perfectly with your photos actually, because we've reached a neat point. Right, where are we? Oh, lots of people are just chatting away at each other. They're moaning about Sarah Noble's moaning about Garforth and East Garforth. Sarah Noble, just wait until they put the new Garforth Central in, which I think they won't. I think they're going to cancel that. But I worked on Garforth Central, so there'll be 3 stations in Garforth, a small suburb of Leeds. It's not even really a suburb of Leeds. It's kind of a town on the outskirts. People asking us about, do either of us have a favourite seaside town? I presume town with a station in it.
One of the best seaside days out I've ever had has been at Margate. Margate is just awesome because you've got the theme park and there's an art gallery and a big beach, and you get to go on a high-speed train to Margate. That's always good. Margate, there we go.
Margate, yeah, that was easy. I don't know, it's a tricky one. I went to sixth form in Aberystwyth for whatever reason. And I quite enjoyed Aberystwyth as a place, but it's actually it can be a bit dreary. But I drank so much wine on the beach as a teenager. Obviously over 18. Don't look up the fact that I wasn't. That's fine. That probably helped. But I mean, Wemyss Bay is also really nice. I presume that's on the coast. That station's lovely, isn't it?
Which one, sorry?
Wemyss Bay, so the one up in Scotland.
Wemyss Bay, yeah. But there's no beach there. You said seaside. That makes me think of like beach and sort of
fair point.
And candy floss. I really want to go back to Scarborough on a day that it's not raining, which is that's up your way. But also there's a lovely town called Bridlington, which we never got a chance to explore. Have you ever got out at Bridlington? Is it a
I would not necessarily recommend it because it's a bit rough. But it's kind of nice. Sorry, everyone in Bridlington. Kind of stumped on your parade a bit there. But then Scarborough's also a bit rough when the sun's not shining. So
I need to go back to Scarborough when it's a sunny day. Yeah, I really want to do that.
So we went. So like at the end of last year, or it was quite late, or maybe it was October last year or something. It was that like crazy heat wave. Do you remember? I don't know. It was some weird part of the year, and there was just a crazy intense heat wave. No, it can't be in October because it was raining for months. Maybe it was a bit earlier in the year. Anyway, York was impossible to breathe in. It was so hot. So Dean and I hopped on a nice air-conditioned Transpennine Express train and went to Scarborough. And it was quite nice, other than the fact that it somehow cooled down a lot. So we got out and it was like, okay, well, we've cooled down now at least. That's good. And then we went and sat on the beach and had fish and chips in the cold. But that's what you do in Britain, right? On the seaside, you have fish and chips in the rain. I once took Dina to Stonehaven, which doesn't have. It's a lovely town, but it doesn't have a station up near Aberdeen, and it has one of the best fish and chip places in the country, and it has a really good ice cream place. So we had fish and chips and ice cream, and my obligatory can of Iron Brew. But it was raining and windy, and Dina, who is she's used to the Adriatic coast. She's from Serbia originally, so she used to go to Croatia a lot. Is used to gorgeous Mediterranean sort of sunshine, and having ice cream and fish and chips in the rain felt like a strange experience, even though she's been living here for nearly 20 years now. But anyway, I digress again horribly. Right, I'm going to do the last surge of questions for the leading piece.
I was just going to say but just from like a train spotting enthusiast perspective. I'm not just saying it because I'm from the south of England, but if you go down to the south coast and the coastway, so you get the train to Brighton and head east, and there's so many points along there where you could be walking along the beach and then the train just rattles past as you're there.
Yeah.
So you could be enjoying beach and train all at once. It's really good. It goes down through like Norman's Bay and Pevensey Bay, all that section along there.
Yeah. With like the lovely like architecture like that through all the tunnels and stuff.
Yeah, it's great. You have trains running right along the seafront, and it's even like New Haven. Yeah, start at Brighton, go to New Haven, walk through Seaford, and just keep going. That's a great day out to do walk and train.
It's yeah. So have you seen the picture? Okay, this is the last digression. I'm not seeing any more questions. I promise this is the last digression. Have you ever seen the pictures of at Folkestone Warren? There was a massive slip during the First World War, and Network Rail uncovered some of these photographs that were taken at the time, and there's a train hanging off. Oh, it's so Google the Great Slip, I think it's called, but Folkestone Warren slip.
You want to do it now? I can do it. I've got my. Hang on, Folkestone Warren. Did you say?
Yeah, Folkestone Warren slip. I've never worked out how to put an. Well, I probably could do it. Wait a minute. Oh, it's not worth it. I'll break my OBS and I'll get confused.
I can see a picture right now of a train and some tracks dangling.
Yes, so everyone, search that. That is on the line of which you spoke. And it was the biggest geological slip in the UK since and for years and years and years.
I went to Google Images, typed Folkestone Warren slip, and it was the first picture there. There's a train like dangling.
Yeah, it's spectacular, isn't it? Like really spectacular. And so there's some really nice high quality photos in the Network Rail Archive website that you can find, and it's nuts. But yeah, the Folkestone Warren halt was moved about 150 meters, and it stayed broadly intact. Fair play. But the whole coastline just went like that. So when you look at the alignment, if you get the NLS map website up, where you can compare old maps and stuff.
NLS is National Library of Scotland,
National Library of Scotland, yes. NLS.geoexplore.com or something like that. Anyway, you can see where the alignment used to be, of course, and then where it's been rearranged thanks to the Earth moving. It's spectacular. Anyway, that's what I know about that bit.
So we mentioned this last week. I did a video with Paul Whitebick last week. We did a least used station, and he mentioned the NLS, and I did it in my video. I popped up. And there was a gentleman in the comments that was like, but this is amazing. I've just spent the last 8 hours on this website, and he got sucked in.
It's bad.
And he was so happy. He was like, but this is incredible. He's like, how did I not know about this before? and I love that you find a resource. And it is. If you could just have one of those sucked in moments and just look up so much stuff. It's great. I love it.
It's honestly, it's brilliant. Like, yeah, the side by side or the overlay where you kind of there's a really fade slider, and they're
National
adding
Library of Scotland people. If you're bored during lockdown, even though lockdown is kind of easing, that's where you needed to look.
It's so good. It is so good.
So I haven't watched this evening's news to know where we are, or are we allowed within a metre of the Rio?
I think John Stone of the Independent said it's kind of like a really complicated drinking game. In that they're adding just more rules to the point where you kind of forget the rules. You forget the rules in the low deck of the cards, and we're now up at like the 7s, 8s, and 9s, and people just have no idea what's going on. So I think that's probably where we're at. So that's good. Geoff does not endorse this opinion, of course.
No. But you know what? This is a great story because it's a great analogy, and I was reminded of this because I've been at several events, at railway events, where maybe people are out enthusiastic to take pictures of trains, and somebody very clearly says, don't go off the end of the platform or don't go beyond that yellow line. But by humans, we're like, I just want to get in front and just get a better picture. And what happens is that nobody goes in front of the yellow line until one person gets, and they go by an inch, right? And then somebody behind them goes, well, if they're going to go over the yellow line, I'm going to go in front of them. And everybody just eggs everybody on. And that's how it happens. It takes one person and the trickle starts. So I feel like at the moment, people don't want to go back on the trains, and yes, we're being told essential journeys only. Or I feel like there's just all these sort of social practices which we've come to adhere to, but nobody wants to be the one to break the mold first. But just as humans by default and by our nature, once we see someone else doing something, we all go, well, if they're doing it, then I'm going to do it, and that's how we'll all go to whatever normal is.
Yeah, as David Frankel puts it, the Dominic Cummings effect. Anyway, we'll move on from that. So, Geoff, that was. I'm gonna press. Wait a minute. See what I mean? You're right. So I need to get my OBS tied to keys so that I can press them and then change it. We're at the end. This is it. This is where I go. We are on a podcast platform.
What's that fourth one?
I have no idea. But it works on that too. Thanks, Giel, as ever, from the Netherlands, for sorting this one out for us.
Thanks.
Yeah, we've it's all happening. There's lots of discussions. Oh crikey! People are asking about the tube challenge, whether that's going to be made impossible by all the changes to the map coming up.
What's the question?
The question was. Ask Geoff if the Camden Town Split, Northern Line Extension and Bakerloo Line Extension will make the tube challenge impossible to do in one day.
No. Well, no, it will make it... What's interesting, I should have touched on it earlier, when Battersea and 9 opens, it's a reset because we'll go up to 271 or 272 stations, depending on how you count them. So there'll be 2 brand new stations to do. But also, Crossrail will then open, and that will allow you more interchange, more across town possibilities. So that's what's really fascinating. No, because we have a new railway which should open up by maybe 2021, 22. It will be slightly easier.
Yeah, there we go. That's the top tip. Nice one. Yeah, there we go. So everyone's asking questions now. I'll put the end cards up. Come on now.
Now they're asking questions. Yeah. Oh,
God. Yeah. People. Well, it's fine. It's good timing because we need to let you go anyway. So, as ever, if you want to get, if people have enjoyed this, I've enjoyed it. Hopefully, Geoff's enjoyed it. If you want to vote on who's chatting in the next one, or what the next theme is, Patreon's your place to go, but you can still throw me suggestions, that's fine. Likewise, Coffee and PayPal. These are the things that allow me to get better kit. Like, for example, a mic that is not this one, that actually works.
It's more like this one.
It's more like that fancy thing that I'm pointing at. Very, very snazzy. And also a thing that isn't an IKEA brown lamp. This IKEA lamp here. Oh, God.
It helps. I have an IKEA lamp as well. I mean, we've all got them.
Gary Keener, off of 25kV, off of the Twitter, jerry-rigged one out of a cake tin and some LED strips he found off of eBay. So, I need to maybe get on that action. Anyway,
that's using like Blue Peter skills to like stick something together.
This is it. Yeah. So yes. And next week we have Prab Riet, the first time one of my actual colleagues who I've done day job work with is going to appear in a Rail Natter, which is exciting. She's going to be talking about quite a few things, but I think we're going to be talking about building railways but with less carbon. So how do you reduce carbon footprint in an age where we need to be managing and being careful about this? How do you build a railway or upgrade a railway but reduce the carbon footprint of that? So that should be interesting. But Geoff, it's been brilliant. I've had tremendous fun.
So much fun. Thank you so much. And an hour has whizzed by.
It really does. It really does. Yeah. No, absolute pleasure. And if ever you want to, if you've got some crazy idea for now you've seen the format and you think, oh, you know what would be hilarious. Just give us a buzz.
We could maybe do. I forget, Vicky. We could have an all the stations round natter. We could like combine the streams like Ghostbusters. No, that's not combine the streams.
No, don't. I started for whatever reason. YouTube brought up the documentary. Actually, the All the Stations documentary. And I was like, what's this? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, there are lots of stations. Oh, I know. Oh, it's Vic. Oh, I know what this is. And I got hooked.
What? Have you not watched it?
No, I haven't.
Hours to do. Hours of work to piece that together.
So yeah, I'm about halfway through, so I'll drop into it and watch the end. But yeah, so an All the Stations Rail Natter sounds brilliant. Anyway, Geoff, a pleasure.
Everyone, so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone on the feed. Cheerio.